What do you want? No. Bam.
Put the bitch on block.
Let's go.
It's Saturday night. That means it's time for the Don Tony Show.
The wait all week long is finally over. Get Don Tony's perspective on current affairs in the world of pro wrestling and much more. The Don Tony Show.
And now your host, the man, the legend, Don Tony.
I don't know what the hell was up with that extra intro part, but believe it or not, I almost had a disaster just now. I have a light over here, and I literally reached over to try to adjust the light now, and my chair almost flipped right over, so that would have been a disaster. Let me ask you a question. In 2023, are we allowed to call something illogical, or are we supposed to just hug emoji, oh my God, it's amazing, unbelievable, Becky Lynch is in War Game, blah, 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 blah. You know, I think that might have worn off on me a little bit too much, because as I'm starting to put up some retro episodes that we did 10, 15, 20, 25 years ago, I noticed back then we were a little bit more critical and not just bitter bitches, but just calling things out like we see it. And I think the problem that we fall into these days is the fear of getting ganged up on, the fear of being blocked, the fear of cancel culture. I mean, who's going to cancel someone out simply because we say Becky Lynch in War Games is illogical? It makes no sense. Think of the storylines. And check it out. Last week, when we had the conversation about Zelina Vega and people's fantasy of Jade Cargill in Survivor Series, we said it doesn't make sense for someone, you know, on the level of Jade Cargill. It makes sense to have somebody from SmackDown, because Nick Aldis and Adam Pearce don't get along. So why would Nick Aldis, or let's go one step back. Why would Nick Aldis allow a Raw wrestler to beat up his SmackDown women? Now, is this going to be a repetitive thing now that Cody shows up and Cody doing business, Cody the Switzerland between Adam Pearce and Nick Aldis? I know it sounds a little ridiculous, but I think that's where they're going with this. Look, Becky Lynch in War Games is a tremendous upgrade, with all due respect to Zelina Vega. And, you know, when you see Michin getting beat up yesterday, which we'll get into SmackDown in a few moments, but when you see Michin get beat up, and when you see Zelina Vega get beat up, and yeah, I know there's Alba Fire and Isla Dawn and some others, but it goes to show you how fucking weak the SmackDown women's division is. And you know, we talked about Asuka joining Damage CTRL, which I don't think is going to last that long. I think Damage CTRL's name will be changing very, very shortly. They even had, for a brief moment, a little tease yesterday that the Japanese women are all talking about Bayley. And Dakota Kai apparently understands Japanese, but Bayley doesn't. Bayley, you better get, what's that, Babel? Isn't it Babel? Bayley, somebody better buy Bayley Babel for Christmas, because you better start learning Japanese, sister. Surprised you haven't done so already in storyline. We have to clear that out. But it just goes to show you can have this powerful faction. Who are they going to beat up? We had this conversation a week ago. Be careful what you wish for, because people don't think, beyond the following week or 2 weeks afterwards. But hey, Becky Lynch, you know how I would resolve this? A trade was made. Maybe a trade was made. Leave Becky Lynch on SmackDown. I know what you're all going to say. DT, SmackDown is filled with all the megastars. Not saying that Rhea Ripley's not a megastar, but outside of Becky Lynch, everybody else on Raw is so much below. Even if you do a Rhea Ripley, Becky Lynch feud, then what? Becky's going to feud with Nia? I don't know if that's actually going to happen. Becky's going to feud with Raquel Rodriguez? I doubt it. She's going to have one match with Xia Li, and that's going to be it. Why not do a trade, man? Just put Becky Lynch on SmackDown and put somebody on Raw. I don't know if you do LA Knight, but interesting that Cody Rhodes shows up on SmackDown yesterday and can't help himself. He's got to beat up on the Bloodline, Jimmy Uso, and a little Solo Sikoa. Bring LA Knight to Raw. Bring LA Knight to Raw. I mean, I know you're all going to say, well, DT, with Roman Reigns not being on TV every week, and you have, LA Knight on Raw, man, does that decrease the star power? I think they're going to get 2 million viewers no matter what. I think they could pull back a little bit with SmackDown because Raw is the TV deal they're trying to get. I think they're trying to boost those ratings up a little bit more. Now, the good thing is that we have Survivor Series coming up. Then you got the road to the Royal Rumble. Then you got Elimination Chamber and then the road to WrestleMania. So there's going to be constant shit going on. So ratings should improve regardless. But they got some issues. They definitely have some issues. And look, Becky Lynch is a great improvement for War Games, but it's illogical. And at the end of the day, I like to try to act like things make sense. Of course, everything is under the WWE banner, so not everything is going to make total sense. I don't bitch if somebody on Raw shows up on SmackDown or vice versa once in a blue moon. Hey, if it's giving me more entertainment on my television, that's fine with me. But as far as the Adam Pearce, Nick Aldis dynamic of this, why would Nick Aldis allow a Raw wrestler beat up on his SmackDown women? I have a feeling maybe a trade was negotiated or a temporary trade. We'll let Becky Lynch on SmackDown for War Games. You let LA Knight to Raw for War Games. Now, everybody truthfully thinks that Drew McIntyre is a lock to be on the Survivor Series team. And a lot of people also think that Randy Orton is a lock to be on the Raw. I call it Raw Survivor Series team. I got to be honest with you. This is something that I teased earlier in the week, and I'm going to say it here right now. Randy Orton, you can't do the cell phone thing twice. By the way, why is Becky that angry at Charlotte? If you don't like Charlotte, you block her from your contacts. You don't let her ring the phone. You just put it on mute, put it on block, and that's it. By the way, does Becky Lynch record herself on the computer 24 hours a day, 7 days a week? It just so happened that the telephone rang while she was recording herself. That's creepy, isn't it? Let me record myself playing with my laptop. Show my daughter when she's old enough to understand. All right. Let's talk briefly for a moment about the men's Survivor Series team and a little trolling that Drew McIntyre did this week. Now, I'm going to put up a cheap plug because I want to show a graphic. And the more I look at this graphic, the more I have a problem with it. For those that are interested, Kevin and I are going to be doing Survivor Series predictions this Tuesday, because remember, I will be away for the Thanksgiving holiday week. I will be out from Wednesday until Sunday. So after Tuesday's Survivor Series predictions, the next show for me will be next Sunday night, the 26th, I believe, of November. But as you look at this graphic, if Drew McIntyre is added, I have a problem with Randy Orton with this, especially after last night's SmackDown. You go off the air outside of the announcement of Becky Lynch, as far as the wrestling in-ring matches go, you finished with Cody Rhodes and LA Knight sharing the same ring together. So what makes more sense for Survivor Series? Okay, Adam Pearce, through Cody Rhodes, makes a deal with Nick Aldis that Becky Lynch, for temporarily, will be on SmackDown, and in its place, LA Knight will temporarily be on Raw. Doesn't LA Knight, as the fifth man, make a hell of a lot more sense than Randy Orton? Randy Orton just happened to be in the building. You know, I mean, yeah, we suspend disbelief last night, but Becky Lynch, man, that was awfully quick. Where was she? She's on her laptop. The next thing you know, 15 minutes later, she's in the ring, dressed in full gear, ready to battle. I mean, do you wear your gear at home all day? So you look at this, and I say to myself, that's a silhouette of Randy Orton, by the way. But I think LA Knight makes a hell of a lot more sense. Now, another thing is that there's no guarantee. There is absolutely no guarantee that it's going to be 5-on-5. For the women, they are set on doing 4-on-4. WWE doesn't like to diminish the women's side of things compared to the men. So if you could only have 4 women against each other, you think WWE would actually go 5 men against each other? What about the possibility that on Raw this Monday, Drew McIntyre attacks Seth Rollins, lays him out, leaves him injured, and Seth Rollins is a no-go for Survivor Series? I know, big blow, so Seth Rollins is pretty much needed for Survivor Series, but what if then somebody takes his place? That's a possibility. But the idea that Drew gets added and they don't add LA Knight after Becky being added to the women, to me, LA Knight is that fifth guy, not Randy Orton. Of course, we all want Randy Orton to return. Of course, Randy Orton is one of the greatest of our generations. Of course, Randy Orton is fucking tremendous. You know, as a babyface, as a heel, you know, we want Randy Orton back on television. But does it really make sense when you think about it? I like Dream's idea. He says maybe Cody chooses Brock. You're not going to bring back Brock Lesnar for one night only for War Games. I listen, it's a great idea. Brock Lesnar in War Games would be fucking fun if you think about it. But this is more about, you know, the current feuds. You know, and yes, Randy Orton doesn't have a current feud with any of the guys out there, but a Randy Orton return would still be cool. But I think the more you look at this banner, I think you either stay 4-on-4 and Drew's not in the match, or if you're going to go 5-on-5, you put LA Knight on the men's side, not Randy Orton. If somebody gets injured on Raw and now there's an open spot, then you could surprise everyone with Randy Orton at Survivor Series. But you would have to go off the air on Raw with somebody injured, laid out, and they cannot compete or they are questionable. I don't want the day of Survivor Series that they do like they did back then. I don't remember which pay-per-view it was, but remember when CM Punk was in the back, I think with Legacy or something, and they had Manu and a few others, and somebody got laid out like the beginning of the pay-per-view and they changed it up. I mean, yeah, you could even go to Survivor Series when Steve Austin got run over by Rikishi. They did that because Steve Austin was in no condition to compete. But, you know, they waited until Survivor Series to do him getting run over. They did not a week before, do that angle. So people going into Survivor Series don't expect Steve Austin. So we'll see what happens. But, it's great conversation, but they got to make logic out of the Becky Lynch thing. Shouldn't the first thing that happens right now is shouldn't Adam Pearce technically on social media be out there like, Becky is not authorized to, or even Nick Aldis, I'm not allowing a Raw wrestler beat up on my SmackDown women. Doesn't that make sense? Or are we not supposed to think, that educated? So we'll see. Speaking of Drew McIntyre on Raw this Monday is going to address what he did last week. And Drew McIntyre trolling a little bit on social media. First off, he posted a picture of him with Rhea Ripley on Twitter, and all he wrote on the bottom was, so, what do you want to talk about? It was a little shot at Cody Rhodes, but he posted this video clip as well. Now, a little disclaimer to my audio-only friends out there, which the majority tune into these shows. This is Drew McIntyre in the gym. This is not anything sexual, but if you close your eyes and just listen to it, it can be perceived as something totally different. But for those on video, this is what Drew posted. Pay attention to the background audio. Yeah, that can definitely be misconstrued. You get the picture. So Drew McIntyre having Rhea Ripley's music playing in the background. I thought that's great trolling. That's great trolling. We got to see what happens on Raw this Monday. And we'll talk about it Monday night. So, Dream, thank you for the 2-spot, by the way, for that. But we have a few things to talk about today besides SmackDown from yesterday. Tonight, we have AEW Full Gear going down. There's obviously, thank God, not as many matches. I think there's only 9, which is great. There is a major contract signing going down. And, Tony Khan is kind of cried wolf, with his statements, just too many announcements. But when I think of surprise signing contracts, the one that always comes to mind for me is Christian Cage. So if this ends up being something big, hey, we will, talk about it, but we also have to ask the question, if you saw the thumbnail for today's show, honestly, if we're being honest with ourselves right now, it's not the ingredients of AEW. AEW has top shelf ingredients. It's just the cooks are more about, it's like you open a French restaurant and you got a cook. It's like, oh, no, I like adobo. No, c'est clair de pourpoint. No, you got to put the adobo. I love the adobo. No, adobo's not, you don't use adobo in France. I love the adobo. It's not the ingredients. It's the fucking chefs. A lot of this is for their own enjoyment. I mean, every time I read, Tony Khan's fantasy dream match, now they're doing that tournament, and they actually, Andrade versus Miro is a fantasy dream match. Every time I hear that the owner has a fantasy dream match, I want to punch myself in the face. Seriously. This is more for their, enjoyment and what they believe is what we all want, and not just saying, look, I don't think the mainstream fans are into it like we are. I mean, if the devil is revealed to be like, and by the way, I'll save that because I know 2 people asked me beforehand. I'll answer it. But, a major signing is going to go down tonight in AEW Full Gear. And, here is the official thumbnail for it, an announcement of a blockbuster signing. Now, right away, people are thinking of WWE releases. And a lot of those WWE releases, unless somebody did not accept the 90-day no-compete, which honestly, it's possible. I know there's a ton of people, and look, I am a supporter of Matt Riddle, obviously, but Matt Riddle, not one of the most popular wrestlers out there. I think we could all say that with honesty. Ronda Rousey, even less, I think. Ronda Rousey, one of the least popular women in wrestling. And yesterday, for those that don't know, Ronda Rousey made her Ring of Honor debut. She teamed up with Marina Shafir, and I think they took on Billy Sparks and Athena. And you got to see online all of the people that just fucking hated Ronda Rousey in WWE. Now their attitude is, well, we didn't have a problem with Ronda Rousey. We just didn't like the way WWE used her. Oh, fuck you. What do you think we are? Mentally diminished? We have to be careful with some of the words here. What are we, vegetables? What are we, like, have we smoked a little bit too much babanya? I mean, come on. Suddenly, everybody loves her. Come on. Me, I've always supported Ronda Rousey. I don't need to change my view on her. And I absolutely don't have to change my view on Matt Riddle. But the thing is that, you know, somebody with Tony Khan's money, do you remember right after the releases went down, I posted that thumbnail of Dave Meltzer and Brian Alvarez gushing over Matt Riddle in AEW? When you have a billionaire who doesn't have a family to spend the money on, that doesn't, I guess, have nieces and nephews and doesn't do anything for their future college educations, I don't hear nothing but chat for charity, you know. But when you got billions and you are a single guy, you could spend it on whatever the fuck you want. You never see Tony Khan driving in $1 million Lamborghinis. You don't ever see like him in an absolute mansion. You see him, he's probably somebody that would buy his clothes on Amazon. That's not a knock on him. But when you have billions and billions and billions, and you know, you don't know how long you're going to be on this earth, you want to live and enjoy it. So if there was an infatuation for Matt Riddle to go into, and I'm not saying Matt Riddle's the surprise, but I'm making a point. If Matt Riddle ended up being a surprise and we find out that Matt Riddle did not take the 90-day no-compete, Tony Khan with that kind of money, all right, how much would 90 days be if you didn't wrestle? Okay, all right, you 200,000. I'm just using a random number. All right, I'll give you 300,000 on top of the deal. You know, just don't wrestle until we make. I'm just saying, whoever it is. Personally, I don't think it's a WWE release, because when you look at the releases up and down, like honestly, I like Mustafa Ali. I like Mansoor and Mace and everybody else. There's nobody really on that list outside of Matt Riddle that I would be like blockbuster signing. I don't think Ronda Rousey would have debuted in Ring of Honor yesterday if she was going to be that blockbuster signing. Yeah, they could have put her on Ring of Honor to see what kind of reaction not only the live fans would give, but also social media. But I want to show you the tweet that Tony Khan posted earlier this week. Now, for anybody that's graduated high school, was this grammar actually correct? Or was he intentionally trying to play on words? Because I honestly think he was trying to be a little deceptive here, but in the process used some pretty poor grammar skills. All right, I'm going to read you what he posted on Twitter. All right, and listen closely. AEW has agreed to terms with one, okay? I stress the word one, my friends, has agreed to come to terms with one of the world's best wrestlers, a pro who is known and respected by virtually every AEW fan. Then he writes, they'll They will, abbreviated. He went from saying one to they'll. They'll come to LA to sign the contract this Saturday at Full Gear. Now, nobody obviously called out the poor grammar because obviously online, we know the majority of people out there, whatever. But he went from one to multiple. So now you got to start thinking, is it a tag team? Is it two individuals that have been teaming, that one is more popular than the other and one is more well known to the other? But, again, who is the signing? Now, if it's Will Ospreay, then you got to start thinking about his people who he has teamed up with. I think there's more than one signing tonight. When he said they'll appear, that means there's more than one person. One person we apparently already know. And apparently mostly everyone in AEW respects this person. That kind of knocks some people out the door if you really think about it. Oh no, it's not the Bellas. It's not the Bellas. I respected pro wrestler. I mean, honestly, come on. I'm not throwing shade on the Bellas, but if they're a respected pro wrestler, then James Ellsworth is a respected pro wrestler. The Bellas are not known really for their wrestling ability. They'll come down to sign the contract. Now, it cannot be Kota Ibushi because they already announced it this week. They already announced it this week, even though it really didn't get much attention. But I go back and I say this with the utmost sincerity. Really, will it matter whoever it is? I put Will Ospreay because to me, that's one of the most logical ways to go. And Will Ospreay, remember the news the last month. 1 month ago, we said this. This is the same template they've used with AEW, with Jay White and everybody else. Somebody becomes a free agent. Then you get the elite media from Meltzer to everyone else. No shade on them, but they'll report, oh, WWE is interested in this person. This person is looking to work here, could work here. Oh, all the companies are clamoring to sign this person. But meanwhile, you knew all along that they already worked out a deal with AEW. And I said a month ago, it certainly feels like they're doing the exact same thing with Will Ospreay. Make you believe that the person is in so much demand that WWE wants this person, got to have this person, needs this person. And then the person chose All Elite Wrestling instead. I mean, we're not stupid. Again, we're not mentally special. We're not vegetables. We're not stoned high, brain dead, on life support. I mean, we could see right through this shit. So if it ends up being Will Ospreay, just think for the last month what's been going on. It's the same old shit all over again. Is Will Ospreay a great addition for AEW? Absolutely. No question. But at the end of the day, will it really matter? A lot of people have come to realize Jay White is an extremely talented motherfucker in the wrestling world. He's got a good look. His promo ability is not bad at all. He is strong and solid in the ring and can hold his own. That doesn't mean that, the majority of wrestling fans, especially in the United States, all, are enamored. Just because someone is a great wrestler, has an incredible Japanese background, doesn't mean the majority of wrestling fans feel the same way. And honestly, we've brought up the ratings, and today we will do This Week in Ratings. I got everything lined up for you over here. I got some very interesting stuff to get into this week. But Jay White has not popped ratings. Jay White, when he was in Impact Wrestling, people were such big fans of Jay White that when he was on Impact Wrestling, they still didn't want to watch it. Bullet Club was in Impact, and people still didn't change the channel to go watch it. It's not even like AEW was on Thursday night or WWE was on Thursday night like, SmackDown's on, Dynamite's on, I can't watch Impact. It's right in front of you. It's right in front of you. Seriously, how much energy does it take to fucking get a remote control, put on your guide, and find Axis? Or if you don't know where Axis is on your channel, you go on Google, you get off Twitter for a second, you type, what channel is Axis on Dish TV or whatever, Direct TV? People just were so fucking lazy. And is Will Ospreay suddenly going to be this massive superstar that's going to pop ratings and sell tickets? I mean, will it really matter? Honestly, until the writing improves, until the storylines improve, and most importantly, until AEW stops booking their shit because people that are EVPs, people that own the company, people that work behind the scenes, all think it's a spectacular. They love the idea. It's their friends. Oh, it's amazing, epic, unbelievable. Doesn't mean that the fans tuning in. You'll always get that little core audience. You'll always get that core audience that whatever you put out there, they will tune in. But the idea is that, after a while, you have to start trying to build a new audience. When you start with 1 million fans, after a while, some people might get a little bit tired. I don't have the video clip in front of me. I wanted to share it, but I was a little nervous about copyright. But I watched the other day Commander, and I think it was El Hijo del Viqueño versus FTR. And Commander did some crazy move where he walked the side rope and jumped off. And I looked at the crowd, and he didn't even get up. And I originally was going to post a tweet like, I remember the days, or do you remember the days where fans would pop out of their seat when they sensed a huge move coming? And you look at these fans, he hit an insane move, and you had maybe a couple of polite chants. When everybody does it, nobody does it. And after a while, you're going to lose some viewers. It happens with any product. You have to start. And Tony Khan, I said it on Tuesday's DTKC show. If you haven't checked it out yet, you're really missing an absolute phenomenal episode. But I am tired. I'm tired of Tony Khan. I know he means well, but Tony, I say it here, stop with the justified, this is awesome chants from the crowd. Every time you do that, you disrespect fans that watch wrestling. Why? Since when is a fan chanting, this is awesome, not justified? I don't care what the fuck you have inside the ring. If your audience, viewing paid, feels what they are seeing is awesome, it is always justified. Every time I see him writing that, it's like, oh, well, this is awesome, but this is justified awesome. Fuck you. Fuck you. Any wrestling fan that chants this is awesome. The only time it isn't justified is when Dante Martin jumps, breaks his fucking leg like a chicken bone, and then the fans go, this is awesome. Yeah, that's not justified. But does anybody actually ever do that? When Moxley's dealing with addiction and cutting a passionate promo and one asshole in the crowd starts, going, this is awesome, that's not justified. But fans popping for a move, it's always justified. And this motherfucker always writes that like, justified. Every time you do that, you're insulting fans. Stop criticizing WWE fans. Because I did a poll on last Wednesday Night Dynamite, and I asked everyone out there, how many of you that watch AEW programming also watch either WWE or NXT programming? And 77% of you said you also watch WWE programming. So when you see AEW on TV, understand there is a lot of the audience that also watches WWE. You want proof, everyone? Look at Twitter when WWE is on TV, and then look at Twitter when AEW is on TV. You will see the same motherfuckers tweeting live in real time. It's mostly everybody's the same. Last night, a little different. In case you didn't realize it, SmackDown and Collision went head to head. They kept that son of a bitch quiet, man. You didn't see nothing being loaded up. You saw I saw the media, the elite media, the people that like just focus on ratings. Not a mention. A news article a week ago, Dynamite and Collision are going to be on at the same time. Oh, to be fair, SmackDown is on regular TV and Collision is on cable. At the end of the day, it comes down to fans prefer to watch AEW over NXT or vice versa or WWE. Excuses for yesterday. Yesterday, Collision was on at the same time at SmackDown, and you saw some people online that were tweeting only Collision. It's cool. No issues with that. But at the end of the day, you had to see all the fucking silence yesterday because they were going head to head. Now, what do I think the rating is going to be? I got news for you. I think Collision's rating is going to be very, very on par with their Saturday night show. I honestly think we will have more wrestling fans who watched wrestling on Friday night than SmackDown alone. SmackDown has been averaging about 2,000,001, 2,000,002, I would say. I think SmackDown's rating will go down a little bit because yesterday, the women's War Games match was set up, but I don't think it was must-see TV like some people out there think, especially when people really didn't know who the fourth person was going to be. And most people expected that it could be Zelina Vega or somebody else currently on the SmackDown roster. I don't think anybody who truly believed that it was going to be Jade Cargill or somebody from Raw. And also no Roman Reigns once again. We've seen LA Knight and Jimmy Uso battle before. Santos Escobar. Oh, we'll get to Santos Escobar. Beautiful yesterday what he did. And we got a couple of bonus videos that did not air on SmackDown yesterday that I'm going to share with you too. And I got a Ric Flair video I think you'll get a kick out of also that happened this week. But at the end of the day, I think the rating for for SmackDown is going to go down a little bit. I don't think they'll go under 2 million, but I think it's going to hover right around the 2 million mark. Maybe a drop under 2 million. I expect Collision to be about 470. I think Collision people would say, they're only going to get 200,000 viewers. 8 to 10 is a pretty damn good time slot. And you might have some people that change the channel. Look, Dragon Lee versus Axiom yesterday. Excellent match. I've seen them work in NXT. Some people out there never saw them work, or Axiom outside. That's A-Kid for people that don't know. But yesterday, they put on like 15 minutes of a classic. And right after that, I see people with the fucking animated file of Triple H, where Triple H is like, you ever see that animated file? They're like, Triple H is doing an amazing job with Dragon Lee. What the fuck are you talking about? Look at Cameron Grimes. Look at Dexter Lumis. Look at Candice LeRae. Look at Indy Hartwell. Look at Johnny Gargano. Look at but Dragon Lee, what are you talking about? Dragon Lee has had some of the lowest rating of the SmackDown. I'm not dissing on Dragon Lee. Fans haven't gotten used to the guy yet. Of course he has amazing matches. That doesn't mean that the regular TV fan is going to be like, Justified, this is awesome chance. Like they're going to be glued? No. A lot of people don't have that connection yet. So he's working his ass off to show the WWE Universe, I belong. Dragon Lee belongs. For me, he doesn't need to defend himself in the ring. The guy is spectacular. But just because WWE is giving him 15 minutes on TV and having a tremendous match, does it feel like, he might end up having a feud for a championship in the near future? No. What's he going to do? Down the line, have a match against Santos Escobar? Does anybody think right now that Dragon Lee would prevail over Santos Escobar? Especially after what happened yesterday? So when you see a great match, that doesn't suddenly mean, we brought up Ivar on Raw. Ivar, ever since he had that breakout match with Kofi Kingston, has not won anything. He's 0-4. And Ivar in singles competition this year is like 1-6. it's a lot of it is smoke and mirrors. Okay, as soon as, the fans, get used to this person and are fine with this person, everything's cool in the gang. That's Dragon Lee. Oh, everything is well in the Triple H camp. Look at what he's doing with Dragon Lee. And look at what they're doing with Cameron Grimes. Let's be a little honest here. Just because, you know what it's like? It's like you get a 5-course meal, and 2 of the courses are just absolute garbage, and 2 of the other courses are, we'll call it Candace Corn, and we'll call it indie, just whatever it is. You get a whole bunch of courses that are kind of average, not really good. The steak was kind of tough. The corn was kind of soggy. The bread felt stale. But that fucking ice cream, was epic, amazing, unbelievable. Kudos to the chef. Dragon Lee is the ice cream right now of all the Triple H signings. That doesn't mean that the whole overall scope of the meal was good. It's just that you get a little, everything sucks. You give a little candy and everything is fine. All right. So let's talk briefly about Full Gear. Just quick predictions. Trust me, this will take me 5 minutes, maybe 10, because honestly, I almost called it predictable predictions, because I think a lot of what we're going to get at Full Gear is very predictable. And I think in some cases, it's once again where, you do a little too much and it takes away from the match. And there, like I said, there's like 9 matches announced, and 9 matches announced. Very, very manageable. And you have the contract signing, and obviously we'll get the Devil reveal today. And I think the Devil will not be revealed until the end of the night. Okay. We got 2 0-hour matches and one changed last minute involving MJF. Claudio Castagnoli versus Buddy Matthews. Honestly, I want to go with Buddy Matthews in this match. Claudio, former Ring of Honor world champion. This is not being advertised like a ROH match. We don't see the not so great Utah in the background in this graphic. That's what I call them. We have the great Muda, and I say they're not so great Utah. Bryan Danielson is still on the shelf, obviously, and Moxley has his own match with Orange Cassidy. So I think in the end, Buddy Matthews needs this win. For some reason, they're trying to separate Buddy Matthews from, Malachi Black and Brody King. And it almost feels like they're doing that so no one pays attention to the trios title picture. So I'm going with Buddy Matthews because I think he needs a substantial win at this point, especially since it feels like they're not doing much with Buddy Matthews. So maybe I'm saying that more as a fan than anything else, but I'm going with Buddy Matthews to be Claudio Castagnoli. Here is the change. And I don't particularly like this for the simple reason of storyline. This is what I talk about. We have MJF defending the ROH Tag Team Championships against the Guns. We'll get back to Ronda Rousey later because there's something about Ronda Rousey with ROH that is going to spark up rumors once again about something. When we get to that point, I'll explain what that is. But Samoa Joe is now going to team with MJF to defend the tag titles. Now, for the starkest, biggest AEW fan out there, please, I know some of you are going to be too lazy to write in the comment section, but please explain to me the logic of this. Samoa Joe is a Ring of Honor TV champion. Samoa Joe has a record 500 plus, whatever it was, 390 days, whatever it was, had a record reign as Ring of Honor TV champion. Samoa Joe, last week, I'm surrendering my title because I want to focus on the AEW world title. He has a record ROH TV championship reign, surrenders the title so he could focus on the world title. And now he wants to compete in a Ring of Honor tag team title match. Explain that logic to me. Explain that fucking logic to me. If we are going to think like we went to school, Samoa Joe has to attack MJF. Samoa Joe has to turn on MJF. If that motherfucker teams up with MJF and they successfully retain the titles, that makes Samoa Joe look like, how do I say this the right way? I mean, he would look like an absolute moron. He surrenders the TV title to focus on the AEW world title, and then a week later agrees to fight for the ROH tag team titles. Samoa Joe has to turn on MJF, causing the Guns to win those tag titles. And I also think that Samoa Joe could be involved in this Devil storyline, which we will get into a little bit later. So I'm going with the Guns to win those tag titles, and Samoa Joe needs to turn on MJF because he would look like an absolute moron giving up that other title just to fight for ROH tag titles the following week. Just absolutely stupid, let's be honest. Stupid. All right, so now we go to the main card. And I chose this match first because, once again, too many ingredients spoil the soup. Okay, you got Kenny Omega and Chris Jericho. What are they calling themselves? Were they the Golden Jets? The Golden Jets. Jets. Jet. Has AEW fans done that yet? Jets. Jets. Please don't. The Golden Jets of Kenny Omega and Chris Jericho taking on the Young Bucks. Okay, good match. You know it's going to be fun. They add this fucking stipulation that the winner gets a tag team title shot down the line. Okay, fine. But if the Golden Jets lose, they must disband. Now, Omega and Jericho have been a fun tag team, but if you're going to disband Omega and Jericho, what do you do next? Plus, you got to think about who are the current tag team champions. And then you got to think later on, who they're going to compete against. So it's basically what you're saying is that what this stipulation really is that if the Golden Jets win, they get a title shot. If the Golden Jets lose, they have to disband. That's the stipulation. Because the Young Bucks, obviously, if they disband, then they get the title shot. I'm going to go with Jericho and Omega. Because why would you kill something this quick, if it's getting decent numbers on TV? I mean, I just don't see why you would use a disband this early in the game. Why lose a bullet? No pun intended, because of a stipulation in a match. Why not just make tag team title shot? Let me put it this way. If this would have been strictly for a tag team title shot, people would choose both sides. One doesn't feel heavier than the other. But now people are like, why would you disband the Golden Jets this quick? Why even put that stipulation? You know what that reminds me of? Remember Matt Hardy when he first came to AEW? They had the match with Sammy Guevara. Remember that match if Matt Hardy loses, he must leave AEW? The motherfucker just got there. He didn't even take his jacket off yet. But they did that stupid stipulation like, but Sammy Guevara versus Matt Hardy, that's not strong enough to get attention to viewers. So we'll add this stipulation that if Matt Hardy loses, he has to leave AEW. And what happens? Matt Hardy gets knocked for a loop and the match continues. Because at that particular moment, fuck the concussions. It's more of, what do we do? If we stop the match, Matt Hardy's gone from AEW. What do we do? Sammy Guevara was the big heel at the time. Sammy Guevara is not going to show sympathy. Like, hey, I didn't want to win this way. We'll have a rematch. No, they got stuck with their pants down. I hate these stipulations. I'm going with Jericho and Omega. And if they disband, good. All right, next. I put the women's matches back to back for a reason. Toni Storm versus Hikaru Shida. I like Hikaru Shida. Hikaru Shida's last couple of championship reigns, it almost felt like, boss, me frustrated. Me don't get used well. Me want more. Okay, here's the championship. That's what it feels like. It just feels like Hikaru Shida is the champion because of her history in AEW. And she's a worthy champion. But they've done a shit job with her ever since she's champion. AEW has done a shit job with most of their women's championships in recent memory. Chris Statlander is having an okay run because Chris Statlander is more in an even playing field with some of the people she's facing. Jade Cargill, they boosted too high, and it just felt too out of proportion. Hikaru Shida, a lot of people aren't really interested in. I would have done Hikaru Shida versus Chris Statlander. Tease title for title or something, and you could come up with any kind of bullshit finish you want. Here, Toni Storm's got to get this. With all of the hype, listen, Toni Storm has done a great job in this role, and we already have discussed, the origins of it and, what she's doing. But, they are so infatuated, AEW, with this storyline, and they think they have a masterpiece here. They think that this should get an award for 2023 in some capacity. If she loses today, that just takes everything and just flushes it down the toilet. It's almost like you build like a house of cards and it's epic amazing. And then basically after Full Gear, it's like somebody just walks by and just puts an arm through them, or you build the big igloo and some fat fuck that lives on your block just named Anthony just decides to run into your igloo and just destroy everything. Toni Storm's got to get this. So if Toni Storm is going to get this, sorry guys, I don't care how much cleavage Sky Blue shows, because I see the tweets that people are posting. She could put extra makeup. She could look like she was crying, after she had her makeup on. Sky Blue has improved tremendously. But if you're going to have Toni Storm win the women's championship, you are not having Chris Statlander lose her championship. I would be shocked to shit if we have two women's championship title changes on the same night. I think Toni Storm wins, Chris Statlander retains. Julie Hart has been acing it. You can't suddenly, because Julie Hart has turned it up a notch and it's working, that you just drop everything and just put the title on her. Oh, she's got momentum. Put the title on her. You can't do that because you put the title and now what? Suddenly she's invincible? Keep the title on Chris Statlander. Chris Statlander will retain over Julie Hart and Sky Blue. Sky Blue beat Red Velvet to earn that spot in the match. All right. Jon Moxley versus Orange Cassidy, 2. Orange Cassidy has had a tremendous 2023. Jon Moxley, I think, even though Kevin and I criticized who we call the White New Jack on Tuesday's show, I think Jon Moxley in this match is going to pull out some wrestling moves that we haven't seen in a while. I think Moxley will actually work Orange Cassidy's style more than Orange Cassidy work in Jon Moxley's style. I think Jon Moxley, you could put the international championship on him because of what happened with Rey Fenix. And, that was a title that they wanted to keep on him. But the thing is, what is going on with the Blackpool Combat Club after Full Gear? Are you going to have Moxley, the not-so-great Yuta, and Claudio Castagnoli all as a trios once again? It almost feels like they are purposely separating them to not keep that perception that it's a trios team or a tag team. So if you put this championship back on Moxley, then Moxley could come out there parading the championship and he's got his own feuds, his own things going. I just personally feel Swerve Strickland needs a title. And out of all the titles that AEW has, and I'm not talking Ring of Honor right now. I think this championship is the one that Swerve Strickland should have around his waist. So as much as I want Jon Moxley to win this, I would prefer to see Orange Cassidy retain and then Swerve Strickland somehow get back in that mix. Yes, I remember Swerve getting a title shot not too long ago, but that was not a clear-cut feud. You have to have a feud come out of this, and I personally would like to see Swerve Strickland get involved in this. So I'm going to go with Orange Cassidy to retain, not because I want him to win over Moxley or should I see what transpires afterwards. I'm going with Orange Cassidy to keep his championship. All right, next we got Swerve Strickland, Hangman Page. Shout out to Casey is blank. Blank. Casey is raw. I saw the thing blank over here. That's why. It popped up shortly after. Happy 22 months as a channel member. Happy 12 months for Mike T and Kevon Lewis, 33 months. Kevon says he thinks Cokehead Khan might give the belt to Julie Hart and Sky will turn heel. I don't think Tony Khan has the white stuff. I think Tony Khan, just keep him away from Ric Flair's energy drinks. Woo! Tony Khan is just, hyper. He's just hyper. I don't think he does that. I mean, I could understand the perception. I know it's the running joke. Hey, Julie Hart, I will say this. If Julie Hart wins that championship, she has worked her ass off to get where she's at now. I think it's a little bit too early. I would prefer to see Julie Hart versus Chris Statlander one-on-one for an extended feud. But I just see Chris retaining. And Sky Blue turning heel, I mean, I still think of the interview she did with RJ City, and she comes off a little bit like an airhead, and that's not, I'm not trying to criticize her, but it's like, whether she's a heel or she's a baby face, I think you focus on what she's doing in the ring. Heel baby face, I don't think it really matters for Sky Blue. It would be interesting to see her, change her repertoire up a little bit if she turns, but I don't think people really are going to matter that much. All right. Swerve Strickland versus Hangman Page. Logic would tell you that Hangman Page has to avenge Swerve breaking into his house, treating him like a little bitch. And I'm kind of fearing that that's what's going to happen. I feel that Swerve Strickland needs momentum. Beating random people in random matches on television and showing up at someone's house, to me, that's not momentum. To me, everything comes to a halt with a loss. I'll give you a great example. The night that NXT and Dynamite went head-to-head, they put Swerve Strickland, versus Danielson early on. And it felt like so much momentum just popped out of the balloon. That night would have preferred to see Swerve Strickland. They could have done any type of a match and then say at the whoever wins at the end of the night gets a title shot against MJF. It just feels like every time Swerve Strickland gets a little momentum, I don't care about music videos. I don't care about songs. I do care about Nana. He's doing a great job. But Swerve Strickland needs a win here. It needs to build momentum. And I have a feeling that it's going to come to a halt because what does Hangman Page look like if he doesn't avenge his family for what happened? So I reluctantly am going with Hangman Page, but I am rooting for Swerve Strickland. I will be very happy if I am wrong and Strickland wins. So that leaves us with, it's a ladder match now, LFI versus FTR versus the House of Black, Malachi Black and Brody King versus the champions, Ricky Starks and Big Bill. It's a ladder match for the AEW Tag Team Championships. I cannot believe how much they have diminished the interest in FTR. FTR's ratings on the shows have been some of the lowest. We still don't understand the purpose of taking those titles off of them. I understand they wanted to elevate Ricky Starks and Big Bill a little bit, but even Ricky Starks, when we get into the week's ratings, their numbers have not been impressive. LFI, turning, I'm still not used to Roosh being a baby face. I'm not complaining, but there ain't no way LFI's coming out of this as tag team champions. If you make the House of Black tag team champions, then Julie Hart is on her own. Buddy Matthews is on his own. Will they break up? Not officially, but kind of disband the House of Black because of the tag titles, because maybe Julie Hart is a women's champion. So, believe it or not, man, the House of Black need a title. They had those trios belts, and outside of maybe Shinsuke Nakamura's recent, U.S. title reign on SmackDown, I think the House of Black's trios title reign was one of the worst in the last couple of years. Go look up what they did with those titles. They just had a shit run. But you know what? The more I think about it, you're going to put another set of titles on the House of Black this soon. I think most people out there want to see FTR win, but I almost feel like they put FTR as a four-way because they don't want them to lose to Ricky Starks and Big Bill one-on-one. So the more I think about this, I'm going with Ricky Starks and Big Bill to retain. I even though out of everybody, I feel the House of Black could use a little bit of repair, but they just had titles. FTR just had titles. Ricky Starks and Big Bill just started with their run. All right. Was it the IC title? Thank you, YouTube and Uploader and Sam. IC title. That reign was horrible. Look up Nakamura's reign. Look at the title defenses and you'll see. It probably one of the worst title reigns in the last 10 years, I would say. Anything that had like a reasonable amount of a run time-wise. All right, so we move on. We have, listen, the only way I could describe this match is this. Christian Cage versus Luchasaurus. Christian Cage, Luchasaurus, and Nick Wayne versus Adam Copeland, Darby Allin, and Sting. Remember, this is predictions. I'm going to say it plain and simple. Sting is 23-0 since he debuted in AEW in 2021. Does anybody think, after going 23-0, that Sting is going to lose tonight? Nick Wayne is there to get pinned. Nick Wayne will be the one pinned. We'll see who pins him. Might be Adam Copeland. But honestly, listen, could you imagine if Christian and Nick Wayne, Luchasaurus, he's a dinosaur, but imagine Nick Wayne and Christian Cage walking around saying, we put the one in 23-1. I don't want to see that. Sting is undefeated. I think Sting goes undefeated for his entire AEW career, except for maybe his last match. My opinion, ain't no way Sting loses tonight. I'm going with Sting, Adam Copeland, and Nick Wayne. And Darby Allin. Nick Wayne will eat the pin. And here we go. We have the main event for the AEW World Championship. MJF defending it against Jay White. Notice no stipulations about Bullet Club Gold being barred from ringside, so we expect some type of clusterfuck. I expect the Acclaim to get involved in some capacity. Maybe they'll chase off members of Bullet Club Gold. The Devil will obviously make his appearance, and I will give a super shout out to, hang on. Who is this? Sticky Fingers Frank, who'll be revealed as the Devil at Full Gear. All right. I go back to what I said earlier. Samoa Joe, I think, turns on MJF. Makes no sense for Samoa Joe to successfully defend ROH tag titles after surrendering a title. I think Samoa Joe turns on MJF early, maybe leaves MJF a little bit battered, which will have a little asterisk going into the main event that MJF is not 100%. The Devil will obviously be revealed. And who do I think the Devil will be? I think it's going to be none other than Adam Cole. I think we are going to get a faction. We're going to get a faction involving Adam Cole, could be Bullet Club Gold. You might see Samoa Joe in this mix. Samoa Joe is kind of like the Solo Sikoa of the group, the henchman. I could see that. That would be a hell of a lot of people. But then again, when you think of Bullet Club in Japan, I mean, you see some of those vintage photos with Cody Rhodes and Finn Balor and others who are in it. They didn't have 3, 4 guys. Yeah, 5, 6, 7 guys. I think it's going to be Adam Cole as the Devil. I think Adam Cole is going to turn. I don't think Roddy Strong will be part of this. I think that would be a little bit overkill. But MJF, oh boy, would they dare have Jay White win the championship? You know what? What do you all guys think? I think MJF, doesn't it feel like he has to lose this title? Doesn't it feel like he has to lose this title? If Adam Cole is revealed as the Devil, all right. This is where I'm going. I'm going MJF to retain. But because MJF is playing his babyface right now, I think Adam Cole is going to cost Jay White the win and be revealed as the Devil. And I think MJF is going to be confused by it. I think MJF is not going to be totally receptive by it. I don't think MJF, because he is the Devil, I don't think he's going to like the idea that his friend is cosplaying him. I'm going to go with MJF retaining, and I'm going to say the Devil is going to cause Jay White to win, and I'm going to go with it being revealed as Adam Cole. I do not want Jack Perry as the Devil. Like I said last Sunday, the only person that I would pop for to be the Devil is Tony Khan. But oh my God, that would be it was me, Austin. It was me all along. It would be that if it happened. But I don't think Tony Khan will be, especially if he does the contract signing early on in the day, in the pay-per-view. But I do believe one day that'll happen. I think one day Tony Khan will be revealed on TV as a character, will turn full-blown heel, and the hate online. I mean, you see Randy Orton when he's on the top rope and he's just like soaking it all in. I think that would be crazy how the internet would get towards Tony Khan. To have now, put it this way, to have a TV reason, and I know what some people are going to say. Yes, it gives me Dixie Carter vibes. Make no question. Definitely gives me Dixie Carter vibes. But, the difference is, and I'm going to say it, Dixie Carter was a woman. At the end of the day, you had to be a little bit careful, like how much you want to see Dixie Carter get her ass kicked on TV. A lot of people, you got to be a little bit lighter. Let's be honest. That's what it is. Tony Khan, you just want to see his ass kicked. Tony Khan hiding behind maybe Ring of Honor faction. Maybe we get this Ring of Honor NWO-ish type of thing. I know it sounds asinine, but now I get to Ronda Rousey. I specifically wanted to hold off. So I'm going to go with MJF to retain, but I think MJF is not going to be happy with the way he won the match. As I said earlier, Ronda Rousey showed up yesterday at Ring of Honor. You would think to yourself, if Ronda Rousey is going to be involved in anything Tony Khan, you would say AEW. Why would you, I don't want to say waste Ronda Rousey in ROH, but why would you introduce her? It's not like Jade Cargill, where you kind of feel like she should debut in NXT and work her way up. There's some people that really should not debut in NXT, And if Jade is held off enough, then she doesn't need to debut in NXT as an in-ring competitor. But some people, like, to me, ROH is almost like AEW's NXT. You know, it's how it feels. So why would you have Ronda Rousey, who is this larger-than-life MMA, former WWE superstar, whether you like it or not, show up on a product that's just stream TV? I have a feeling you're going to start seeing the rumors return of ROH trying to get a TV deal. And I have a feeling that Rampage will turn into ROH. I think ROH will be, if Warner Media signs a new TV deal with AEW for 2024 to 2029 or whatever it is, I think Rampage will be ROH TV. Now, the interesting thing is what happens with the monthly subscriptions. You could still do that for past content, and maybe you put the pay-per-views, they don't do premium live, the pay-per-views on the network after 30 days or whatever it is. But I have a feeling Ronda Rousey, this almost feels like Jericho. You remember when Jericho was the ROH World Champion? The reason why they had Jericho as the ROH World Champion is to use name value to try to get a TV deal. And it didn't work. And if you remember, right when we learned that ROH was not getting a TV deal, Jericho lost the title. And Jericho was not seen in ROH ever again. Think about it. Jericho has not been seen in ROH after they didn't get the TV deal. So I think Ronda Rousey, her being in Ring of Honor, might lead to a TV deal. And who knows? Maybe Tony Khan is the leader of ROH, infiltrating AEW. Would Tony Khan be the Eric Bischoff, what Eric Bischoff was to the NWO? I know I am talking crazy shit right now, but that's what I do. That's what I've always done. So I think we end up with an ROH faction, and I think we may end up with ROH on Friday nights. And I honestly think that would be a great idea because, let's be honest, my preview of Collision before the first ever episode debuted, I said, is it either going to be Saturday Night Dynamite or is it going to be Rampage 2? And it certainly has turned into both of those. So you take ROH and you do that for Fridays. Now Friday nights has an identity. Saturday, you do what you want. You could tweak Saturdays a little bit. So I think that would be it. And who knows, down the line, we may see an ROH versus AEW storyline. I think that could happen. So I think that's why Ronda Rousey was put in that situation. All right. Before we just quickly run down SmackDown, a couple other little tidbits. And this is a big deal because we might see the WWE return of a very popular wrestler. Impact Wrestling announced that TNA will be returning to Florida. Orlando for Friday, January 19th and Saturday, January 20th for some tapings. And, you know, we know the history of TNA in Florida. But if you take notice of the press release, one name that was not mentioned in the press release was Mickie James. Mickie James is no longer in Impact Wrestling. Mickie James has been working Impact Wrestling without a contract. And after last week, Mickie James told Impact, I am going to step aside. So they have the door open. Whenever she wants to return, she can. But Mickie James was not recently under a Impact Wrestling contract. So she is gone from Impact. All of the advertisements for TNA in 2024 do not include Mickie James in any of them. Now there's a lot of buzz that Mickie James will be the next women's legend, Hall of Famer, so to speak, to appear on WWE television. You know, we had Lita a year ago, Trish Stratus this year for a while, yes, people forget Mickie James was in the WWE during COVID. I mean, who could ever forget? Remember one of the last, this is a bad impersonation of it, one of the last visuals we saw of Mickie James was on Raw, and they had the Thunderdome, and she lost to Asuka, and the referee thought she was injured, and she's in the ring. She's like, that was like such a shitty way to go out of WWE. She made that cameo in the Royal Rumble, which was pretty cool. But now with Nick Aldis, man, wouldn't it have been cool if Mickie James could have been in War Games? That would have been a pretty awesome way. And if Mickie James would have come to WWE sooner and be on SmackDown, man, that would have been pretty cool. If they would have revealed that Mickie James and Nick Aldis, as far as WWE TV goes, that they're married. So Mickie James with Nick Aldis in WWE, a lot of people think Mickie James is on her way back to the WWE. And I love it. I love it because she could still go. I mean, if anybody out there has seen her in Impact the last 2 years, I don't need to say much. But I also feel that kind of her momentum diminished when they did that storyline that the next match she loses, she's done with Impact. And then the injury went down and the storyline kind of got all fucked up. But as of right now, Mickie James is done with Impact. And I want to see her back in WWE. She can absolutely still go. Absolutely. And why not? Trish Stratus, I mean, my God, most of her run this year, let's be honest, was underwhelming, disappointing, but she went out in that cage, Hell in a Cell. She went out in a blaze of glory. I mean, she just fucking tore that shit up. Never had a cage match. I wonder if Mickie James had one. I'm trying to remember if Mickie James ever had a cage. I'm sure she did. Mickie James's career, you almost feel like she did. But then again, if Trish Stratus never had a cage match, maybe Mickie James never had one too. I got to look it up. Nothing is coming to mind as of right now, but so we'll see what happens with Mickie James. Dolph Ziggler, they just announced his first appearance post WWE. Wouldn't that be something if the announcement tonight is his brother is officially given a contract and Dolph Ziggler is the announcement? Maybe we will see Ryan and Nick Nemeth tonight. The more I think about that, Dolph, I apologize. I said earlier that Matt Riddle is the only person on the releases list that I thought would be something I would pop for. You know what? If Dolph Ziggler ends up the announcement tonight, I would be very, very cool with that. But those that are interested, Dolph Ziggler will be wrestling in the World Wrestling Council December 20th in Puerto Rico. December 20th in Puerto Rico. Now, I think Dolph is under 90-day no-compete. I truthfully believe that he's under 90-day no-compete. So that's why I think it is a big, long shot if Dolph Ziggler ends up being that person tonight. But Verse doesn't like the idea. Verse thinks it would not be a good enough. Listen, he could fucking go. I could see him showing up. Maybe him and his brother. That would be kind of shade on his brother, though, when he said they'll show up tonight. You know what? Maybe his brother introduces him to AEW. His brother's already there. So what about that? Dolph Ziggler is the AEW announcement. Sam, okay, thank you. Mickie James was in a steel cage match, but it was not for WWE. It was for Impact. When she won the Knockouts title the first time. So she has had a cage match, but she has not had one in WWE. So we'll see. But all right. Oliver's asking, is AEW essentially a retirement home? Give me some names. Who's there retiring? Like when you say retirement home, it's usually people that are old, that can't bend down, that can't wipe their ass anymore. People that are just dribbling everywhere. Like, who is technically in a retirement home? Please don't tell me Sting. Sting has had 23 matches in about 3 years. Sting is a special attraction. Sting does not wrestle singles matches pretty much ever. So when you say retirement home, you got to give me names for examples. You know, if you really think about it, and Ric Flair you cannot use because Ric Flair's already revealed that he is not going to be wrestling. And I'll share with you, little treat right now. Ric Flair posted this video. I thought it was funny, but I thought was funnier was the IWC response to it. Mark Henry doesn't wrestle anymore, and Big Show has had one match in how long? Big Show, it's almost like a old-timers game. Big Show is having one match, street fight. He's not on the pay-per-view. He was there. Give me someone, let me put it this way. If you're going to use Big Show after not wrestling for how many years, that's not, it's not a retirement home. It's not a retirement home. Ric Flair posted this video earlier today. I'll describe it to my audio only friends. You're not missing much. All right, for those that are on audio, it was a video of Jerry Lynn talking to Ric Flair. And Jeff Jarrett and Jay Lethal walked by. And Ric Flair had to stare down with both. And Jeff Jarrett turns the other way, a little disgust. Jay Lethal has a smirk on his face, and they leave. And, funny little moment. But the IWC response was priceless. Because I swear to you, if you think I'm exaggerating, go look it up. 99% of the responses was, oh, Ric Flair and Jay Lethal, they're going to relive the TNA stuff and this and that. I saw one out of hundreds. I saw one person, only one person mention this. We just had Ric Flair's retirement match of Ric Flair and Andrade versus Jay Lethal and Jeff Jarrett. Nobody referenced that match. Everybody it was pretty funny how almost everybody totally forgot that how it wasn't that long ago that Jay Lethal and Jeff Jarrett were in the ring with Ric Flair. And you know what's funny? They could redo this match if you think about it. Every single person in this match is in AEW. So I just found that interesting. All right. Let's talk quickly about SmackDown because I got a couple of video extras that were not on SmackDown yesterday I think you'll get a kick out of. And then we'll do ratings, and then we'll get out of here. All right. SmackDown yesterday, as we opened up, we don't need to redo everything that we said earlier. We now know that Becky Lynch is going to be the fourth member of Team Bianca at War Games. Now, yesterday, because Corey Graves is still on paternity leave because of the birth of him and Carmella's son, Road Dogg appeared yesterday. Road Dogg, I enjoyed it, but I could tell you that WWE probably was on the edge of their seat a little bit in the back. Road Dogg kind of talking about how he doesn't remember the 90s, bringing up Billy Gunn a little bit a few times, which I don't have any issue with. But even on some sexual innuendos here and there, him gushing about Austin Theory's entrance and the way the light reflects off his body and Road Dogg had some moments yesterday that I enjoyed it, but you could tell like some people were like, oh, please don't go there. Road Dogg was funny yesterday. Road Dogg joined the commentary team, and we opened up with Damage CTRL in the ring, and basically Damage CTRL touting the addition of Asuka. And it was funny because Asuka started talking in Japanese. Bailey almost taking credit for the fact that Asuka's in the group, and Asuka talking in Japanese, and Io Sky and Kairi Sane are laughing at it, and Bailey is a little confused, and Dakota Kai, who apparently understands Japanese, is saying that, somebody here is not a member of Damage Control, or insinuating that they're no longer going to be part of this group, or, there's a problem here. And for a split second, Bayley thinks that everybody's going to turn on her. And then Dakota Kai says, no, Asuka is officially not a member. Bayley, who happens to have an extra t-shirt of Damage Control, even though Asuka's not on the shirt, Bayley takes the shirt and offers it to Asuka and says, will you be an official member of Damage Control? So Asuka grabs the shirt, kind of snatches it away from Bayley, and now she is a member of Damage Control for now, because obviously that name will change in the very near future. But they issued a challenge to Bianca, Shotzi, and Charlotte at War Games. Go find a partner. Shotzi takes it upon herself to just, she's coming off as this reckless, I don't give a shit attitude. She shows up, dives off the top rope, tries to take on all the members of Damage Control by herself. She gets her ass kicked. Bianca shows up, Charlotte shows up. They get their ass kicked a little bit. They're chased out of the ring. Bianca looks a little concerned. Charlotte looks a little concerned. Shotzi is smiling and she's loving it. It's almost like kind of like a little bit of Liv Morgan, like she enjoys a little bit of abuse. So now we are told by Nick Aldis, who sees the three women, that you have until the end of the night to announce your partner for War Games. Otherwise, you don't have a partner. Now, something interesting happened that everybody online picked up on almost immediately. This is Nick Aldis talking to the three women. But when Nick Aldis went back into his office, wait for it, look, you can't really see it, but if you watch the clip again, when Nick Aldis walked back into his office, there is Cody Rhodes on the phone dressed in a suit. So Cody Rhodes was there. The IWC realized it early on. Even WWE on Fox's Twitter pointed up as well. So Cody Rhodes is there. And, we're wondering, okay, why is he there? Obviously, some business being talked about, as we talked about earlier in the show. So now they're trying to figure out who their partner is going to be. And first, Bianca Belair goes up to Michin. Big mistake, because later on, Damage Control is like, Michin's not going to be a partner. Michin is found totally laid out. Isn't that he was in the Spirit Squad. Well, what was his name? Oh my God. Somebody in the chat room. What was his name? That agent. Can't remember his name. He was in Kenny. Yes, that's right. Kenny Dykstra. That was the agent who came to the aid of Michin. Michin crying. She got laid out. A little bit later, we see Bianca Belair with Zelina Vega. Big mistake there. Now, why was Bianca kind of like consoling Zelina Vega? Well, we'll get into that in a moment, because Santos Escobar hit a home run last night. And we got some bonus footage for you in a moment. But she is talking to Zelina. Zelina is at her worst right now. The LWO has kind of split up, and she's devastated after what Santos did. Santos saying, Rey, I hope you get an infection. They have to cut your leg off. Sure, Zach Gowen didn't like that. And Zelina is so upset. And Bianca, that selfish bitch that she is, she's like, oh, Zelina, I feel your pain. Do you want to join us at War Games? So what ends up happening? Zelina Vega will not be part of that either. And Bianca is like, don't worry, girl. We weren't going to use you anyway. You would have probably gotten pinned. But no, I'm joking. Zelina Vega gets laid out. So now we got no Zelina Vega as well. And at this point, we're getting late in the show, and we realize, okay, that SmackDown Women's Division kind of sucks, because who are they going to go up to next? Alba Fire and Isla Dawn. So finally, at the very end of the night, before we go off the air, we got Bianca, Charlotte, and Shotzi in the ring. And, they're making phone calls. Charlotte is, Becky tells Charlotte, look, you got to call. At this point, people are starting to figure out that it's Becky Lynch. And when Charlotte hits the ring a little bit later on, Charlotte talks about the thin line with friends, enemies. And once again, this goes back to Monday and what we said about Drew McIntyre. Yes, they are doing it again. The enemy of my enemy is my friend. I expect Drew McIntyre to use that line. Cody used that line. Drew may use that line. Technically, they used that line yesterday. So Charlotte Flair is about to reveal who their partner is. And, she was playing off that she wasn't sure if she was going to make it in time. But Damage CTRL comes out and they're laughing, they're touting, that they don't have a partner. And not only are they not going to make it to Survivor Series, they're not going to make it out of the building last night. They all charged the ring. Now, obviously, Dakota Kai couldn't get physically involved. But as they charged the ring, and this is some fan cam footage, Charlotte, Bianca Belair, and Shotzi got their partner. This is how it went down from a fan's perspective. Yeah! Becky running through the crowd in full gear, showing up. We got the stare down. We get the brawl, and we go off the air with Becky Lynch as the official member of Team Bianca at War Games. Standing side by side with Charlotte Flair. Again, I like it, but we got to see if any logic comes out of this, as we talked about earlier. So that's how everything went down yesterday. Now, something very, very cool. We talked about Santos Escobar for a brief moment. Santos Escobar was going to come out and address what he did to Rey Mysterio. It started off with a home run because he came out dressed like he used to in NXT when he used to dress like Tony Montana. He comes out with the white suit and the red shirt with all the jewelry. He comes out to the old theme that he had in NXT, which it's one of my favorite themes. Thank God they did not change that theme. I fucking loved it. He comes out to the ring and he's cutting a promo about never meet your idols. He talks about how he looked up to Rey Mysterio and basically saying, Familia, you chose an outsider, Carlito, over Familia. And, Santos Escobar, is just totally, he's pissed, but he's hurt. And he apologizes to the fans that he didn't hurt Rey Mysterio even further. And he is just reading the riot act towards Rey about Carlito. He is just trash, and he is fucking, and the crowd, early on it felt like Dominic Mysterio boos. You were thinking, did WWE amp up the audio a little bit? But there is some fan footage online that apparently the response was genuine. And they're chanting, "You suck." So they are totally into him as a heel. Again, I love the Tony Montana look, the old theme that he had in NXT. He nailed it yesterday. But as he's going on and he's saying some really brutal stuff about Rey Mysterio, especially when he says, "Rey, I know you're in the hospital right now." And for those curious, here is the screenshot of Rey. He did undergo knee surgery. I was told that it was minor, and he will be back a lot sooner than people think. Rey legitimately had some minor knee surgery. One person told me that they had to clean out some debris in his knee. Someone also told me that there might have been a slight tear. I kind of lean towards them cleaning stuff out. All I do know for 100% certainty is that it was minor. So Rey Mysterio will be back. I expect him back in time for the Royal Rumble much sooner than that. I think it'd be much sooner than the Royal Rumble. So Santos killing it, saying that, "Rey, I hope you get an infection. They got to cut your leg off." And while this is going on, you see Joaquin Wilde and Cruz del Toro and Zelina Vega in the back watching this. And Zelina Vega killing it with her reactions. She is just devastated hearing what Santos Escobar is saying. So she hits the ring and she confronts Santos Escobar, and Santos Escobar is saying, "We're through, get out of the ring." we're done. And Zelina's just nailing this. She is, and you want to know something? And I say this legit. I'm sure some of those tears were real. You know why? Because they're the LWO. Those tattoos are for life. They truly love each other outside of the ring. And the fact that they can no longer be a group on WWE television and, beyond, that hurts. It sucks. It's kind of sad that you now are forced to, no longer be an on-air, ally of Santos Escobar. But she is crying up a storm, and Santos is telling her to get out of the ring, and she gets pissed, and she slaps him, whacks him in the face. Now, for some people out there, they thought that Santos was going to put hands on her, which obviously is not going to happen. He just wipes it, and he's got this smile on her face. So she leaves. No physicality there. So as she's leaving the ring, Joaquin Wilde and Cruz del Toro, they hit the ring, and Santos gives them an opportunity. The three of us, and they ain't having it either. They're going with Rey. So Santos tells them to leave the ring, and as they leave the ring, Santos starts beating up on both of them. And I thought this was the funniest thing of the night. When they get beat down, here comes Carlito with the corny merengue music, the salsa music. And I know it's kind of a distant picture, but when he started running down to the ring, he had this look on his face like, oh, I don't want to fucking run. Running to the ring is not cool. Like you could feel like he's like, hey, I'm an older man. I don't want to run to the ring. He just had to wind himself up to run to the ring. I thought it was fucking funny, but he runs to the ring and he makes the save. Santos gets out of Dodge. And then we learn a little bit later on that at Survivor Series, it's going to be Carlito versus Santos Escobar, one-on-one. I don't think Rey's going to make an appearance. I also think Santos Escobar is going to win that match, but they did a great job. Now, after SmackDown went off the air, we got a little bit of bonus video online. This is Kayla Braxton finding Santos Escobar, and this is what Santos Escobar had to say after SmackDown.
Santos, I know you're eager to get out of here after what we just saw. But
I'll give you 1 minute. Go.
Okay, well, you had a very emotional message to your former partner, your former mentor, your former hero, Rey Mysterio. You said that you hoped he'd even lose a leg. Did you mean everything that you said? Because they were some very harsh words.
Kayla, I'm a grown man. I say what I mean, and I mean what I say. And what I said was that I hope he never comes back. Now, how would you feel if your mentor, the person you respect the most, betrayed you and chose someone like Carlito for a change? How would you feel about that?
Well, I think for me, I would be just really hurt. And so I know you're speaking out of anger, but is some of it, you've got to be a little heartbroken. Is some of this from her, or are you just mad?
I'm not angry, Kayla. I'm disappointed. I'm disappointed in every single person in this arena and at home. Did you hear that? They have the nerve to boo me. Boo me. I was betrayed by all of them. I thought I had a family. Family's everything to me. I thought I had a family. They're gone. I'm by myself from now on.
We saw you attack your former family. We also saw Zelina Vega come out there, and she looked heartbroken to do what she had to do before she slapped you. How do you feel about your relationship with Zelina?
The only thing I can say is she was lucky enough to hang with me for a while. But now we're done. We're through. Good luck.
And lastly, you mentioned Carlito. We saw Carlito come out to try to put an end to what you were doing.
Carlito.
Listen, I do want to break some news to you that I just received. And that is that next weekend in Chicago at Survivor Series, you and Carlito will be facing each other in a singles match. Do you have a response to that breaking news?
Well, I can't wait, Kayla. I've been waiting for this moment for a while, but I have news for you. Good luck having Carlito on time. Make sure he knows what day it is.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. So it is official. Survivor Series, Carlito versus Santos Escobar. And yes, I'm with a lot of people in the chat room. I'm fucking on Santos' side on this. I mean, let's be honest. We're not trying to be jerks here, but we knew the true value of Cruz Del Toro and Joaquin Wilde. The entire time, the LWO, the reason why they even did this is because the LWO would have looked stupid with just 3 members in it. Zelina Vega, Santos Escobar, and Rey Mysterio. They needed to make it feel like a faction. And now with Rey on the shelf and Carlito, losing to Santos pretty much at Survivor Series, you could have Zelina Vega with just Cruz Del Toro and Joaquin Wilde. Is that really going to go places on WWE? I don't think so. So I kind of am on the side of Santos Escobar with this. Now, a couple other things from yesterday's SmackDown. I got another video coming that you'll get a kick out of. Solo Sikoa. His time is now. And you can't see John Cena because John Cena was not there. Paul Heyman cutting one of his memorable promos, complete with him doing John Cena's music. Doo, 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 doo. If you ever heard Paul Heyman do it, he killed it last night. He's talking about everything that Solo did to John Cena. And he also says that John Cena is not even here to say goodbye. So I'm going to say goodbye for him. We're all going to say goodbye to him. And everything that John Cena does not have right now, he's not going back to Hollywood. He cannot talk. He cannot do this. He won't appear. It's all because of Solo. Now, Paul keeps saying Solo, doesn't say Sikoa. If you remember not too long ago, they tested that, just calling him Solo without the last name. I hope they don't start doing that again. But Paul Heyman killing it on a promo yesterday. And you realized that this was not going to close out SmackDown because it wasn't even 9:30 yet when they came out to the ring. But they were quickly interrupted by LA Knight. LA Knight comes out there and very cool. He cut the promo next to that woman that drove 700 miles to see LA Knight. And there's actually fan footage of him, I think, signing it looked like he was signing her thing after. But he comes out there. He's not done with the bloodline. He's thrown a little shade to Roman Reigns. And, if it wasn't for Jimmy Uso at Crown Jewel, that he'd be the champion right now. And tonight he gets to take on Jimmy Uso. Now, the interesting thing about it was, and you could kind of sense where the outcome of this match was coming, that Paul Heyman and Solo, they were kind of like in the back because of a phone call. So I guess Roman Reigns called and Paul had to take the call. So Jimmy Uso is out there by himself. And we get, similar to the match we had not too long ago, LA Knight defeats Jimmy Uso. Soon as the match is over, Solo Sikoa's music hits. Solo starts coming down the rampway and Jimmy Uso attacks him from behind. So now we're getting a 2-on-1 beatdown, and we're thinking, like, who's going to come to make the save for LA Knight? And lo and behold, much to most of our surprise, even though we saw him earlier in the night, but Cody Rhodes shows up. Cody makes the save. Cody is beating down Jimmy Uso and Solo. And, we're thinking about the Adam Pearce, Nick Aldis aspect of this. So after Cody Rhodes makes the save, we come back from commercial and Cody's in the back with Nick Aldis. And Nick Aldis is like, you know what you got to do? And Cody's like, yeah, I got to leave. Because Cody took it upon himself to get involved out there. Now, because Cody Rhodes is not a SmackDown wrestler, Nick Aldis cannot suspend him. But Nick Aldis kicked Cody Rhodes out of the building. But because they're friends, he didn't have security escort him out. He just said, Cody, you know what you got to do. So Cody took it upon himself. And I don't want to repeat what we said earlier, but think about what we said earlier in the show, that this could tie in to Monday's Raw, especially the logic right now of Becky Lynch beating up SmackDown wrestlers. Why would Nick Aldis agree to that? So something is going to happen on Raw. We got to see if LA Knight plays a factor. The fact that Cody is in the ring with LA Knight at the same time, that's leading to something. And by the way, yesterday, Cody beat Dominic Mysterio in a dark match. And I believe Karrion Kross. Oh, who did Karrion Kross face? I think he faced, was it Cedric Alexander? I think he might have beat Cedric Alexander, but Karrion Kross also wrestled the dark match and won it. Yesterday here locally, for the December 1st SmackDown, they are advertising Seth Rollins versus Shinsuke Nakamura and Cody Rhodes versus Dominic Mysterio in dark matches. So 2 weeks from yesterday, those 4 guys will be at SmackDown here in New York, but it's going to be dark matches. It's not going to be televised. So, yeah, Maggie and everybody in the chat, Paul Heyman just kills it. He's just, you can't get better. You just cannot get better. He is so good at what he does. And the great thing about it is he never stumbles over his words. Like, he's just got a point to say, and he knows how to say it. He doesn't even have to think twice about it. It just comes out, and when it comes out, it's priceless. I tell you, man, if anybody who is younger, remember this. For those who are older, will remember this. You know, when Paul Heyman used to be on creative for SmackDown in the 2000s, there was a falling out with Paul Heyman and Stephanie McMahon and Vince McMahon. And Paul Heyman at that time, coming from ECW, you know, he was not the easiest to get along with authority. And, you know, he butted heads with WWE a lot. And I'm telling you, you know, when I bring back some of the DTKC episodes from the mid-2000s, we truly believed that there was going to be a point that when Paul Heyman started that agency, that outside entertainment venture that and I even think it may still be active, we thought he was going to be done with wrestling. The closest to it was maybe if Dixie Carter gave him the power and the money, but that never came about. And then when he came back with Brock Lesnar, you know, that was interesting a little bit, but once he was done, you know, with CM Punk and, you know, Paul Heyman guy stuff, you know, there was a point that we just thought that Paul Heyman was going to be done with wrestling. The fact that he is still doing what he's doing now, albeit an advisor, a manager, whatever you want to call it. Trust me, 20 years ago, I would say 15 years ago, we didn't think that this would still be. So it's pretty awesome to see what we're seeing now, because there was a very big concern back in the day that Paul Heyman was going to be done with wrestling. All right, just to wrap up the SmackDown discussion from yesterday, definitely need to mention this briefly. We had a triple threat match to determine who is going to face Damian Priest and Finn Balor next week on SmackDown for the Tag Team Championships. And it ended up being the Street Profits getting the win. Now, what was interesting in this match was 2 things that went down. First off, I am a little concerned, but we actually saw B-Fab in the back talking to Bobby Lashley, and B-Fab is like, hear me out. Hear me out. I don't know if I want to see that. I just personally think they don't need a female in the group unless it's Bianca Belair. Nothing against B-Fab. She's not the greatest wrestler in the ring. And to have the Street Profits, who deservingly could be champions right now, and Bobby Lashley, who is a bona fide champion, unless you're not having B-Fab return to the ring, I don't know if I want that. Again, it's not a black or a white thing. It's just simply, she can't really back it up in the ring. If she's improved, fine. I'm all ears, all eyes and all ears. But I don't know if I want to see that. Another thing that I don't know if I want to see is the breaking up of Butch and Ridge Holland. Butch yesterday inadvertently hit Ridge Holland, which caused the loss. And after the match was over, Ridge Holland walks out in disgust, leaving Butch in the ring. And no disrespect to my IWC friends out there, but man, did you all look stupid yesterday when you're writing. I hope this leads to the return of Pete Dunne. What the fuck does that even mean? I mean, you're still into a name that bad that if he's called Pete Dunne, oh, everything is right in this world? Are you bent? What is that even? Seriously, listen, don't take it personal. But the common thing I kept seeing written last night was, I hope this leads to the return of Pete Dunne. What does that mean? What, Butch? Like, oh, Butch is such a stupid name. I mean, Pete, he is Pete Dunne. He's doing everything he does. What's the difference? What, he's going to go like this? He's going to break the fingers and now he's going, I am a huge fan. Look, I got fucking autographs right here of Pete Dunne and Butch sitting right here. I also got, Gigi Dolan. Always keep it handy. But I'm a huge fan of Butch. I even got signed cards of Butch that are just falling everywhere right now. You don't need to prove it to me. But people out there saying to me, oh, I hope it returns Butch to Pete Dunne. What does that mean? I think that's stupid. But I don't know if I want to see that. I don't know if I want to see that. Now, yesterday also, we had Grayson Waller beating Cameron Grimes. We had Austin Theory on guest commentary for a little while. Cameron Grimes put up a good fight, but Cameron Grimes has got to turn heel. It's got to grow a little bit more hair. It's got to look like a Brillo pad again. Cameron Grimes is not working. It is not working. He can go. It's not working. After the match was over, after SmackDown went off the air, we learned that next week, Kevin Owens will be on the Grayson Waller effect. Now, after SmackDown ended, Grayson Waller and Austin Theory trolling Kevin Owens a little bit because this happened.
I am joined by Grayson Waller and Austin Theory. And Grayson, congratulations on your win over Cameron Grimes. But my real question is, do you guys have receipts for those KO shirts?
Kathy, I know you like to make jokes, but we're actually here for a different reason tonight. We actually feel bad about what happened last week, right?
Yeah, we like to have a good time.
We do.
We like, making people laugh.
Yeah.
And this isn't something we can laugh about.
Is there a punchline to this, or?
No. I think we went too far.
You have to pause that for a minute. I rewound this 10 seconds for a second. Is it just me, or does Austin Theory sound like Kevin Owens with a little bit of a less accent? Listen to it again. Tell me if Austin Theory doesn't sound like Kevin Owens a little bit.
What happened last week, right?
Yeah, we like to have a good time.
We do.
We like, making people laugh.
Yeah.
And this isn't something we can laugh about.
Is there a punchline to this, or?
No. I think we went too far. Kevin Owens is a leader in the locker room. He's done so much in this business. We look up to him, and maybe we got off on the wrong foot, and we made a mistake. So
Yep.
I actually have an idea how we can make it up to him.
Wait, an idea?
Yeah, I'm thinking next week live on SmackDown, I host the Grayson Waller effect with my very special guest, Kevin Owens. What do you think? I think that's a great idea. I think he would love that.
I personally feel like there's no better way to
It's
give
the only
back
way to
than
give
that.
back. What do you think, Kathy?
Let's
Grayson
give it
Waller
back.
effect with Kevin Owens. Like, imagine welcoming back to SmackDown.
Yeah.
That's touching,
Yeah,
man. That's
it
touching
is.
stuff.
See, and I think this is how we mend our relationship, brother. A-Town Down Under.
A-Town Down
We're for
Under.
the people. Thanks, Kathy. I appreciate you.
People. We're for the
Looking
people.
forward to seeing that next week.
Hey, to be honest, I don't have my receipt for this, so I'll just give it back to you. All right, cool. Tell Kevin I said hey.
Yep, I'll give this to him.
I think you should give that shirt to the Road Dogg instead. If you saw SmackDown, you know why I'm saying that. So that's what we got next week. Look, as we said last week, Kevin Owens was suspended to explain why he's not on Survivor Series. So he will be on the Grayson Waller effect next week instead. And also next week, we'll have Damian Priest and Finn Balor defend the undisputed WWE Tag Team Championships against the Street Profits. Could they do it? Could you go into War Games with just Rhea Ripley and Dominic Mysterio? As far as Rhea Ripley with just gold. Let that sink in a little bit. So let's see what happens out of the deal. I mean, I'm talking about the main group. I'm not talking about NXT stuff. I'm just saying, I don't think so. I think we'll probably get a bullshit finish. Look, I think this is going to lead into Survivor Series, obviously. So probably it'll just end in a no contest. People will be hitting the ring. You know, Adam Pearce won't be there. I'm sick and tired of all this interference. So it's going to end in an absolute clusterfuck. But Grayson Waller gets the win over Cameron Grimes yesterday. Cameron Grimes, you know, hey, as much as people were giving props to Dragon Lee, as we said earlier, there's a lot of people that are not getting good momentum right now. Last night, Dragon Lee beat Axion. And this was a really good match. If you follow NXT, you knew what you were getting. For the mainstream fans, a lot of them, this is their introduction to A-Kid as Axiom, and they tore it up yesterday. I mean, some of the moves they were doing, you look at that crowd, the crowd at times was just real. I mean, they got awesome chants a couple of times. Justified, TK. All fans chanting awesome is justified. But, you know, at the end of the day, though, it's still very early for Dragon Lee. You know, hey, you look at the early days of LA Knight, even when he started calling himself LA Knight again, you look at some of his wins and the crowd had no reaction whatsoever, and you see what it is now. Dragon Lee ever going to get to that point? No. But Dragon Lee yesterday took a big step as far as winning the fans over. What WWE Creative does with Dragon Lee and getting over with the fans are two totally different things. Because there's a lot of people that are over with the fans, and we could go from Otis to everybody else. And at the end of the day, there's a lot of smoke and mirrors involved. But yesterday, this match was excellent. Dragon Lee, Axiom, good 15 minutes. Very interesting that they did do this match, especially that Collision was on. Now, I wasn't channel surfing yesterday, so when I do the ratings the week after, I want to see what Collision had on at this time. And I think it might have been Dax Harwood versus Roosh, but I want to see what that rating was during this match because we've talked about it. Dragon Lee has had some big drops in ratings because the fans are just not into him yet. And honestly, if you watched the match yesterday, they put on a clinic. They did some great, you know, lucha libre, if you still want to high flying, but when you see so much of it on TV, you know, like it's more about spots now. Like that, when he turned it into the Canadian Destroyer yesterday, Axiom, you know, I mean, that move was the move of the night. Everybody was replaying. But when everybody goes high flying, it's not as impressive. You know, fans don't react like this. They get numb to it. But Dragon Lee, I think they're going to set up a little bit with Santos Escobar. But as of right now, I can't see Dragon Lee overcoming Santos Escobar. But this was a great match yesterday. But I honestly think also it did not pop a rating. So before we close out with this week in ratings, and I have two Dynamites to get into because I didn't do a show this past Wednesday because Kevin and I ended up doing a show the day before, and we actually got into a lot of AEW topics on that show. So, you know, if you haven't downloaded it yet, go to DonTony.com and download it. Spectacular. A couple of quick plugs also. This Tuesday, Kevin and I will be doing a preview and predictions for Survivor Series, and we should have some clarity on Monday if this is going to be a 5-on-5 or a 4-on-4, and you know, if the chances of Randy Orton being in this match is still a possibility. Let's see if LA Knight becomes a factor. So by Tuesday, we should have some clarity with our predictions. So that'll be Tuesday. Also, the following week, yes, you're going to get DTKC for 3 weeks in a row. You could go to the community section on YouTube right now. And the reason why we have it there is because anybody listening or viewing have access to YouTube. We have a thread up where you could post a question because Kevin and I have not done a Q&A outside of Patreon in about 7 years. So if you want to be part of the next Q&A, you could go to the community section. The thread is up now. You have until next Sunday night to pose a question. But, just keep it kind of brief. I know some people get excited and they post 9 questions, 1 or 2 at the most, because we want to answer everybody. But you could do that as well. And tomorrow, this is personal for me. For anybody that has gone back with me for years, when you saw the Don Tony character, I always used to wear the John Gotti shirt when I was a manager doing indie stuff. Don Tony with the John Gotti stuff. All right. I always did it for personal reasons. You know the deal. I don't need to bring it up here. But a story that I've been telling going back to the 90s on my hotline, I had told the story many, many times over the years that back in the late 80s, early 90s, when John Gotti got acquitted for some charges, that me and my family, we brought 6-foot heroes and fruit baskets to his house, and the news media were there and they recorded us. And I had always told the story that I went to hang out with my friends the following weekend and I had the newspaper with me. And I was all excited to show my friends that I was in the paper because we were delivering stuff to John Gotti's house. And to my surprise, most of my friends were like, "You're proud of that?" And I've always told that story. And over the years, people have always said, "Oh, DT, where's the proof? Where's the proof?" Last week, I was clearing out my email. And there was about 14 emails from people telling me, "DT, is this what I think it is? Is this it? This it?" All right. On Netflix right now, they have a documentary series going on called Get Gotti. Get Gotti. Well, during one of the episodes, they talk about how he was acquitted on some very serious charges. And there's some former gangster there, and he said that when he got acquitted, there was this big party. And when they showed the party, lo and behold, they showed video of us delivering fruit baskets and 6-foot heroes. That is a screenshot of my dad. That is a screenshot of me wearing the same shirt. And that is a screenshot of us. So tomorrow, since the sit down has a little bit of a mafioso theme to it, tomorrow I'm going to share the video. So for everyone out there for 27 years that thought I was full of shit telling that story, we actually hit the Get Gotti documentary. Pretty wild. I had no idea that footage existed. I always thought it was just print media. So I'm writing to the director to find out where that footage was from, and I'm going to try to get the whole video. Because remember, these news reporters, they record hours of video and only a small segment reaches TV. I want to see how much video they got. So I'm going to write to them and see where the source was for that, and I'm going to try to get my hands on it. So tomorrow we'll have some fun with that. So, and speaking of tomorrow, all right, there's the official. Tomorrow night, 8:05 p.m. Now, just keep in mind that there will be no show next Wednesday and no show Saturday, Survivor Series anyway. But I will be back the 26th, a week from tomorrow, Sunday, with the sit down. We'll definitely talk some Survivor Series because it would have happened the night before. And we'll see how our predictions are. But I will be away from Wednesday until Sunday, and then I'll be back Sunday night for the next show. So let's talk ratings for a few moments, and let's get out of here. Now, like I said, I got 2 Dynamites since we didn't do an episode Wednesday, but I got some very interesting ratings tidbits to share with all of you out there. Goes to show you who is really lacking momentum right now and who is starting to get momentum. And you see some of the questionable decisions. I will tell you that the women in AEW and the women in WWE this week did very, very well. Except for NXT. All right. AEW Dynamite on November 8th did 804,000 viewers, down from the week prior, 832. Outside of the Big Bang Theory lead-in, the high point of the night was Samoa Joe versus Keith Lee, which did 867. Very cool to see Keith Lee in a high point of Dynamite. Very, very cool to see that. You know, there's a very concerning rating in here about MJF. No clickbait. I'll give it to you in a moment when I get to it. The low point was Red Velvet and Julie Hart. Now, I know you're going to say to me, DT, you just said that the women did well this week. Well, let me give you the overall and you'll understand why I said that. The Mariah May introduction as well, that did 696. Now, the positive for that night was that the AEW rating remained consistent for the first hour. The Sting and Darby tag team match against the Outrunners scored 821. Swerve versus Penta scored 816. And Jericho and Omega having a confrontation with the Young Bucks did 818. So they're very, very consistent that first hour. The second hour, though, they took 2 drops, 100,000 viewers apiece. And the biggest one was the Guns versus the Bollywood Boys, which lost 100,000 viewers. New Japan for November 9th did 32,000 viewers, down from the week prior, 42,000. New Japan, I mean, I remember the days there were like 70, 80,000 viewers. Now they're under 40. That's pathetic. Impact for the 9th did 97,000 viewers. Maybe more important that their demo was 0.02. They're no longer in the zero territory. And but unfortunately, this past Thursday, they did not break 100,000 viewers again. I'll get to that in a moment. Rampage for the 10th did 322,000 viewers. That is up from the week prior, 298. The high point was Ruby Soho versus Red Velvet, which did 348,000 viewers. The low point, Ricky Starks versus Preston Vance, did 299. The positive is that the women's match was the only part of Rampage that was on par with their normal numbers, and nothing was really under 300,000 technically. The negative is that FTR versus Commander and El Hijo del Viqueño, they actually lost viewers as the match went on. They didn't lose a lot of viewers. They lost about 25,000 viewers, but they still lost viewers. And the first hour, nothing broke 400,000. That's for Rampage. SmackDown, the 10th of November, did 2,195,000, up from the week prior, 2,119,000. The high point was Damage Control having their confrontation with Asuka, Bianca, and Charlotte. That did 2,329,000. The low point, Dragon Lee versus Cedric Alexander 2. That did 2,109,000. The positive is that hour 2's rating was very, very consistent. It opened up with 2,002,000 viewers, and it closed with 2,179,000. So they only lost about 23,000 viewers for the whole second hour, which is great. Nothing dipped below 2.1 million the entire night. And yes, a little lower overall because it was a taped SmackDown. We should point that out. The negative, Dragon Lee versus Cedric Alexander, they lost 220,000 viewers as the match went on. So again, got to give it some time for Dragon Lee, but we got to see, fans start to realize, is he really getting a push, or are they just trying to get him to a lucha level so he can, have some matches that fans are interested in. Okay, Collision for November 11th did 396,000 viewers. That is up from the week prior, 364. The high point was Sting, Edge, and Darby Allin versus Lance Archer and the Righteous, but it only did 412,000 viewers. The low point was the LFI versus the Workhorsemen, which did 365. The positive is that the audience, very consistent for the whole night, except for LFI versus the Workhorsemen. If you take that match away, their rating for the night goes from 393 to 412. So it shows you how much that match hurt the rating overall. The negative is the fact that they spent a week hyping up Darby, Sting, and Adam Copeland in a trios match. And despite the week-long hype, it only scored 412,000 viewers. Also, the main event, that match that I just said, only gained 8,000 viewers from Powerhouse Hobbs versus Titus Alexander. Do you remember MJF and Kenny Omega increased 100,000 viewers when that match started? You had Adam Copeland, Sting, and Darby Allin versus Lance Archer and the Righteous, and you hyped that match up for a whole week. And from Titus Alexander versus Powerhouse Hobbs to that match, they only gained 8,000 viewers. That's not good. Raw, this past Monday, did 1,467,000. That is down from the week prior's 1,522,000. The high point, Team Cody and the Judgment Day, the confrontation to open up Raw, it did 1,747,000 viewers. Excellent number for a Monday night. The low point, though, was the first half of the tag team title match. The Judgment Day versus Cody and Jey Uso. That only did 1,300,000 viewers. By the way, the second half of that match only went up to 1,388,000. So that main event didn't even draw 1.4 million. Tag team title match. The positive is that the women's matches scored well on Raw. After the Judgment Day, Cody, Jey opening for Raw, the next two highest segments of the night, believe it or not, was Tegan Nox versus Piper Niven, which did 1,477,000. And believe it or not, Xia Li and Indy Hartwell did 1,467,000. So outside of that opening, they had the two highest quarters. It's pretty impressive. Now, the negative is that after Raw got to 8:45 p.m., 45 minutes into Raw, they were just declining the whole night. Nothing broke 1,500,000 outside of the opening. Otis versus Shinsuke Nakamura tanked 180,000 viewers as the match went on. And again, the main event did not break 1.4 million despite it being a tag team title match. NXT did 703,000 viewers, down from the week prior, 794. The high point of the show was Chase University versus The Family, which did 785. The low point, JC Jane and Andre Chase having that confrontation later on in the night, and Wesley versus Baron Corbin, which did 645,000 viewers. The positive from NXT this past Tuesday's Hour One's rating was strong. They had 770,000 viewers for the first 55 minutes of NXT. Unfortunately, at the 56-minute mark was that ridiculously awful segment with Lyra Valkyria and Xia Li having tea. That segment, by the time that segment ended, they went from 737,000 viewers to 640,000 viewers. That quarter ended with 666. So they actually got back a few viewers before that quarter ended, but they tanked. If you take away that quarter, they were consistent, but they dropped 97,000 viewers. They never got them back. Trick Williams versus Joe Coffey was the closest to 700,000 viewers. It did 699. But the main event of Baron Corbin and Wes Lee, they lost viewers as the match went on. So not very good for them. And we finish up with AEW Dynamite. Oh, and by the way, I'll say that that's to do with the Young Bucks EVP stuff. Few people asked me to check in on that. I'll tell you in a second. Dynamite this past Wednesday, 823,000 viewers, up from the week prior's 804. Outside of the Big Bang Theory lead-in, Jon Moxley versus the not-so-great Yuta Moxley and the Not So Great Yuta versus Hook and Orange Cassidy did 843,000 viewers. Unfortunately, that match lost 125,000 viewers as it went on. Obviously, fans watching the Big Bang Theory lead-in, not changing the channel quickly enough. That's probably the reason. The low point of Dynamite this past Wednesday, the finish of the street fight and Bullet Club Gold attacking MJF. MJF was part of the lowest part of Dynamite's rating, did 760,000 viewers. The positive for Dynamite was that only 2 quarters were below 800,000. And even though the rating went down the entire night, the rating went like this. There weren't any big dips in the numbers. Outside of the Big Bang Theory lead-in that drops usually, the rating was only 80,000 viewers less by the end of the night. So many times you'll hear me and other shows talk about Dynamite starting at a number and ending like a couple 100,000 viewers down. After the Big Bang lead-in, they only lost 80,000 for the night, which is not bad. The low point of Dynamite this Wednesday is that nothing topped 900,000 viewers as a lead-in to Full Gear. Nothing topped 900,000. The rating went down as the night went on. The Young Bucks versus Penta and Commander lost viewers as the match went on. The street fight lost viewers as the match went on. And when was the last time that you could say MJF was part of the lowest ratings of the night? MJF was part of the lowest ratings of Dynamite this past Wednesday. Just figured I'd share that with you. Okay, a few people wanted me to find out about this controversy floating around that the Young Bucks are no longer EVPs. Where that came from is that on AEW's website, it used to show EVPs, or some social media page always showed the Young Bucks as EVPs, and then it was updated and it didn't show it. Some people said it was a typographical error. It was not a typographical error. Somebody was trolling. Somebody intentionally deleted that title under their names for a few days, and then it reappeared. They were just trolling. That's really what it. People aren't going to tell you that it was trolling, but it was trolling. You don't accidentally delete both people, the same exact thing, and then it reappear a few days later. But they are still EVPs in AEW. So I think that's probably the most important thing for you guys. All right. Before I get out of here, I see a couple of super shout outs came in besides everybody we shouted out during the night tonight. Let me just give a couple of shout outs here. Shout out to XXX with the 555. Finally caught the show live. He wishes Ronda Rousey debuted at Full Gear. Thank you for the consistent content. Happy holidays. And he says, everyone, hit that like button. Appreciate it, my friend. Appreciate it. Ronda Rousey, she could still appear at Full Gear tonight. Again, I don't think she's the person, but as I said earlier, they could have had her appear at Ring of Honor, see what kind of reaction she got. Plus, Ring of Honor is taped. So, if you introduce Ronda Rousey tonight, technically you're not going to see her on Ring of Honor TV until it airs. It would have been smart to test the reaction first. But when Tony Khan went out of his way to say that, almost every AEW fan respects this person, I'm a Ronda Rousey fan. I don't need to prove that. But to a lot of fans out there, they're not the biggest Ronda Rousey fans. Ronda Rousey has had a lot of hate. She does not meet. It doesn't match what Tony Khan said. Even if Tony was kissing her ass, still, I think a lot of people would be complaining about that. So I don't think it's Ronda Rousey. The more I think about the Dolph Ziggler idea, the more I think that could happen. I think that absolutely could happen. I know that's not very impressive for some of you out there, and I totally respect that. But of those releases, Matt Riddle and Dolph Ziggler, if it ends up being either one of them, but remember, on my thumbnail, I posted Will Ospreay. So I'm kind of thinking it might be Will Ospreay because of the way AEW's done that shit in the past with Jay White and everyone else. You know the template. Somebody's a free agent. Then everybody reports that, oh, WWE's interested. Oh, WWE this, that. And then after you wait a couple of weeks, then they sign with AEW, and it gives you that thought that that person chose AEW over WWE. You know, petty shit. But that could very well end up happening tonight. If it's Dana Brooke, that would be fucking funny, man. If it's Dana Brooke. All right. Sticky Fingers Frank, thank you for the 5 spot earlier. As I said, I think it could be Adam Cole. Adam Cole, too conspicuously absent. I know he's got the fucked up ankle. I will say this. If the person comes down to the ring limping, I think we probably got a better idea. I have a feeling the Devil is going to come out slow. Or maybe the Devil is under the ring, which would kind of suck because that is unless you get dressed under the ring. I mean, you're not going to wear that outfit and the fucking mask while you're under the ring. So you can like kind of hide under the ring and then get dressed like right before the main event starts. Because the lights, I'm sure, are going to go out once or twice tonight. So, yeah, I want Tony Khan to be the Devil Gruss. I'm telling you, it's sometime Tony Khan will be the Bischoff. Maybe Ring of Honor versus AEW. Chris S. Thank you for the 5 spot, Chris. WrestleMania is months away, but do I think it's possible to see Damage Control versus the 4 Horsewoman? I doubt it for the simple reason that Bayley, I don't think. I mean, if Bayley reunites with Becky, Charlotte, Sasha, that leaves Asuka, Io, Kyrie, and Dakota Kai. I don't see Dakota Kai staying in that group. But here's the thing. And the reason why I think Dakota Kai could very well end up staying with Io Sky, Asuka, and Kyrie Sane. Can you all figure it out? Can you figure it out? Why would Dakota Kai stay with those 3 if Bayley's no longer part? I want to see who in the chat room could figure it out first. Why would Dakota Kai remain in that group? Does anybody, what's the first thing that comes to mind? Just think common sense. Why? Why do you think Dakota Kai? Thank you. YouTube uploader, you nailed it. She speaks English. You need somebody who speaks fluent English. Asuka talks a little. You know, I mean, I'm not saying that none of them could talk, but you want someone. And I think that's part of the reason why Dakota Kai has been coming across as understanding Japanese, even if she does understand Japanese. Like she is the person between those women and Bayley. We'll see what happens. But no, I don't see that happening. I don't see it happening. I don't think Dakota Kai would, I don't think they're going to call themselves Damage Control. I think it's going to be renamed. I think Damage Control's name will be history. And, you know, that 4-4 could happen. I'm just not sure on Mercedes Moné. I'm not buying Sasha Banks returning in time for WrestleMania. But, you know, look, she can't even wrestle right now. And a lot of people think that Tony Khan is going to open the bank to get Mercedes Moné just to make that statement. And yes, in the world of billionaires, people sometimes want to make arrogant statements more than anything else. Mercedes Moné with AEW would be phenomenal, you know, to see her there. But after 3 months, you know what I mean? You see what happens. All right. Shout out to Zimpulse. Thank you for the kind words, my friend. I appreciate everybody who supports what I do. You know, live, archive, video, audio. Appreciate you all. Believe me. Thank you. I certainly don't do this to hear myself talk or see myself. Dream, shout out to you. We talked about Brock earlier as a, you know, good idea. Wouldn't fit into today's storylines. Shout out to Gavon Lewis. Thank you again, my friend. Happy anniversary. Same thing to you, Casey is Raw. Nero Faye. Jews and Israelis stay strong and stick together. Shout out to Nir. He lives in Israel and You see the news, you see what's going on. It sucks because social media, for the most part, has it right. Everybody wants to see peace on both sides. Unfortunately, the people on the ground are not going to base decades and decades of hate and history because so many people online have the different views on it. So all we could do is just look from afar and, just support all the good people out there that are trying to make peace, and stay safe. Stay safe. Seriously, stay safe, man. And yeah, I guess we could close it out. Ray shouted out XXX. So I'm going to jet out of here. Wow. Almost 2.5 hours tonight. Thank you, everybody who's live right now. Thank you, everybody in the chat. Yeah, Rick, one more time. It was me, MJF. It was me all along. I tell you, man, Tony Khan, I think there's a faction coming out of tonight. I'll leave you like this. Listen, tomorrow's the sit down. You're welcome to join me at 8:05 p.m. I'm sure I will have some overall thoughts on Full Gear and what went down. Are we going to do a full-blown recap? No, because everybody and their mother's going to be doing one. I will, give you some quick thoughts about it. But I will say my gut feeling tells me that Ring of Honor has always been on TV in some capacity. You might remember my thumbnail from about 1.5 years ago, Force Feeding Honor. Remember that? But lately, it feels like everything Ring of Honor on TV, they're trying to make it a little extra special. There's always titles involved. There's always major implications involved. And I think they're trying to work out to have Ring of Honor on either Saturdays or Sundays. Fridays or Saturdays. I think Fridays would be more appropriate because you have Dynamite, Ring of Honor, and then Collision. Collision could be both. Maybe Collision is a collision between AEW and Ring of Honor. Maybe you do that. Dynamite is AEW, Rampage is Ring of Honor, and Collision is a little bit of both. It would be kind of a hard sell, though, because why would AEW wrestlers allow Ring of Honor wrestlers to wrestle on the same show if there is a storyline feud going on? So, but I don't get paid that kind of money to give you those creative answers, but maybe one day I will. We'll see. So, my friends, I'm out of here. I want to thank you very much for joining me today. I wasn't planning on doing, this long of a show, but again, after tomorrow, Monday and Tuesday, I will be off for 5 days. So, if you don't check out any other episode between now and next Sunday, happy Thanksgiving for those who celebrate it. And, hopefully you catch me. Tomorrow we'll do the sit down. That'll be a fun little show. Monday will be the Raw recap, and we'll see. It's the go-home show for Survivor Series, so we'll see what develops with Drew McIntyre or anything else, and we'll see if another match gets added to it. As of right now, we have Gunther and The Miz. We have the women's War Game match, the men's War Games match, and Rhea Ripley versus Zoe Stark. The tag team championships obviously cannot be defended. Here's something that Kevin and I got to talk about. Can Damian Priest cash in his briefcase during War Games? Could that happen? I think Damian Priest will not cash in. Damian Priest's team has to lose at War Games because when Damian Priest was proclaimed the leader and Rhea says you are in charge for Survivor Series, as I said Monday, to me, that was her completing the sentence that Judgment Day will lose at War Games and Damian Priest will be blamed for it. And then that may start leading to the exit of Damian Priest in Judgment Day. But have a great rest of your weekend, everyone. I'm going to jet out of here, and I hope to catch you all again soon. Much love.
As far back as I can remember, I always wanted to be a podcaster. For me to live any other way was nuts. To me, those goody-good people who worked shitty jobs for bum paychecks and took the subway to work every day and worried about their bills were dead. I mean, they were suckers. They had no balls. If I wanted something, I just took it. I ran everything. I paid the bills. I paid the hosts. I even paid the masked maniac. Everybody had their hands out. Everything was for the taking. We always called each other good fellas. You would always hear from somebody. You're gonna like Don Tony. He's alright. He's a good fella. He's one of us. But if you're part of my crew, nobody ever tells you they're gonna get rid of you. It doesn't happen that way. There weren't any arguments or curses like in the movies. See, your haters come with smiles. They come as your friends, the people who've claimed they care the most for your life. And now that's all over. And that's the best part. Today everything is different. There's lots of action. I don't have to wait around for everything like everyone else. Oh, I didn't get the vaccine? Fuck you, vaccine me. Oh, your delivery guy has COVID? Fuck you, feed me. Right after I moved here, I ordered egg noodles and ketchup, and I got spaghetti with meat sauce. I'm no longer an average nobody, while they get to live the rest of their lives like a bunch of schnooks.